Scrolling through Instagram, I saw my son Tyler, smiling, in a wedding photo I knew nothing about. There he stood in a suit, arm around a woman in white, with her beaming parents beside them. The caption drove a knife through my heart. With the family that always supported me. 40 years of sacrifice erased in one post. I closed the app, poured myself a whiskey, and called my lawyer. By morning, I had signed the papers to sell the house I had given him. I never thought I would be that father. The kind who gets cut out of his only child's wedding. The kind who retaliates by selling property out from under his own son. But then again, I never thought Tyler would exclude me from one of the most important days of his life. My name is Brock Miller. I turned 64 last April, and until last week, I thought I understood the relationship I had with my son. I thought we were close. I thought there was trust, respect, and love between us. I was wrong. I raised Tyler alone after his mother, Sandra, died from breast cancer when he was just 10 years old. Those early years were the hardest of my life. I was a civil engineer working on highway infrastructure projects, but after Sandra passed, I picked up weekend consulting work to make sure Tyler could stay in his private school, where he had friends and support. Those kids and teachers helped him through his grief in ways I sometimes couldn't. I remember driving home from my second job on Saturday evenings, so tired my eyes would burn, but I'd still stop to pick up whatever treat Tyler had mentioned wanting earlier in the week. A model airplane kit. New basketball shoes. The latest video game all his friends were playing. I wanted him to have normal, despite everything. College was always the plan for Tyler. Sandra and I had started a fund before she got sick, but medical bills ate through our savings. After she was gone, I rebuilt that college account dollar by dollar. I skipped vacations, drove the same truck for 15 years, and put every bonus and tax refund away for his education. Tyler graduated from Purdue with an engineering degree, just like his old man. I've never been prouder than watching him walk across that stage. He'd grown into a thoughtful, ambitious young man who called me at least twice a week during his college years. We'd talk about his classes, his internships, and his plans. He'd ask for my advice, and I'd give it, always careful not to push too hard or direct his life. I wanted him to make his own choices. 3 years ago, Tyler met Jessica at a company training event in Chicago. She worked in marketing for the same engineering firm. The first time he brought her to Sunday dinner at my house, I could see the way he looked at her. It reminded me of how I used to look at Sandra. Jessica was bright and friendly. She complimented my grilled salmon and asked thoughtful questions about Tyler's childhood. She seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. After dinner, while Tyler was taking out the trash, she thanked me for raising such a good man. I thought she was perfect for him. When Tyler landed his first big promotion 2 years ago, I decided to help him get established. I had inherited my father's house in the suburbs after he passed, and instead of selling it, I renovated it and gave it to Tyler as a graduation gift. The place was worth about $400,000, but I kept my name on the deed for tax purposes. We agreed Tyler would pay the property taxes and homeowner's insurance, while he built up his savings. The arrangement worked well at first. Tyler would invite me over for barbecues in the backyard where I had taught him to ride a bike. He and Jessica would host game nights, and I was always included. They talked about their future, about marriage and children, and it seemed like everything was unfolding exactly as it should. But something changed about a year ago. The invitations became less frequent. Tyler started missing our regular Sunday dinners, citing work commitments or plans with Jessica's family. When I did see him, he seemed distracted, checking his phone constantly, and steering conversations away from anything personal. I tried asking if everything was all right. "Just busy, Dad," he'd say. "The new project is taking all my time." Or, "Jessica's parents need help with their vacation rental." Nothing to worry about. His calls went from twice a week to once every couple of weeks. When I'd reach out, he'd take hours to respond, sometimes not until the next day. I told myself this was normal. He was building his own life. I shouldn't take it personally. Last Thanksgiving, Tyler and Jessica went to her parents' place in Michigan instead of coming to my house as they had the previous 2 years. Christmas was a rushed exchange of gifts at a coffee shop because they were just so swamped with year-end stuff at work. I tried to talk to him about money once, wondering if financial pressure was causing the distance. He became immediately defensive. "I'm doing fine, Dad. Better than fine, actually. The promotion came with a big raise." "That's great, son. I just want to make sure you're not stretching yourself too thin." I said I'm fine, he snapped. "Not everyone needs to live like a monk to get by." The comment stung. Was that how he saw my careful saving all those years? As some kind of deprivation? I backed off. but the nagging feeling that something was wrong persisted. Then, last month, I ran into Tyler's boss at a retirement party for one of my old colleagues. "How's Tyler doing with the new accounts?" I asked, making small talk. Bob's face registered confusion. "New accounts? Tyler's been in the same role for over a year now. Did he mention a promotion I don't know about?" I covered quickly, saying, I must have misunderstood, but on the drive home, my mind was racing. Tyler had told me about 2 promotions in the past year. He'd mentioned salary increases, new responsibilities, and even having his own assistant. None of it was true. I didn't confront him. Part of me didn't want to know why my son was lying to me. Maybe he was embarrassed about his career progress. Maybe he was in financial trouble but too proud to ask for help. Whatever it was, I decided to wait until he came to me. I never got the chance to have that conversation. Instead, I discovered the truth in the most painful way possible. It was a Tuesday evening when I found out. I was sitting in my recliner, the one Sandra and I bought when we first moved into our house, checking the scores for the Cubs game on my phone. I absent-mindedly opened Instagram to see what my niece had posted about her new baby. Instead, the first image that appeared was Tyler in a charcoal gray suit with his arm around Jessica in a stunning white dress. For a moment, I thought it might be a throwback to someone else's wedding they had attended. Then I read the caption, "With the family that always supported me." Dunn was Jessica's last name. My fingers fumbled as I tapped on the image to see more. There were multiple photos from what was clearly their wedding day. Tyler and Jessica exchanging rings, cutting a 3-tier cake, dancing under string lights in a rustic barn venue. And in several shots, Jessica's parents, the Dunns, beaming with pride. I had met the Dunns twice. Once at that first dinner when Tyler introduced me to Jessica, and once more at a restaurant for her birthday. Harold Dunn owned several car dealerships in the area. Marjorie Dunn didn't work but was involved in various charity organizations. They seemed pleasant enough, if a bit status-conscious. They had made a point of mentioning their country club membership and their winter home in Arizona. I scrolled through more photos, my chest tightening with each swipe. There was my nephew Andrew and his wife, Tyler's college roommate Jared. At least a dozen of Tyler's friends I had known since they were teenagers playing video games in my basement. They were all there, all smiling, all apparently in on a secret that I wasn't privy to. The wedding had taken place the previous Saturday at Pine Lake Lodge, about 2 hours outside the city. I recognized the venue because Sandra and I had considered it for our own wedding 35 years ago, before deciding on a simpler ceremony. I called Tyler immediately. The call went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same result. "Tyler, it's Dad. Call me back as soon as you get this. It's important." I texted him next. "Just saw your wedding photos. Please call me." An hour passed. No response. I called Jessica. Voicemail again. I even tried messaging Tyler's best friend Marcus. "Hey Marcus," trying to reach Tyler. "Do you know how I can get in touch with him?" Marcus responded almost immediately. "Hey Mr. Miller. They're on their honeymoon in Greece. Should be back next week. Everything okay?" Greece. My son was on his honeymoon in Greece with his new wife, and I hadn't even known he was engaged. I sat there in my living room, surrounded by photos of Tyler growing up. His first day of kindergarten, Little League baseball, high school graduation, college acceptance letter day. All these milestones I had been present for, had celebrated with him, had helped make possible. And now, this enormous life event that I had been deliberately excluded from. Later that night, after several more unanswered texts and calls, I reached out to Lisa, the mother of one of Tyler's high school friends who had remained close to our family over the years. "Lisa, I'm sorry to bother you this late, but I just found out about Tyler's wedding. I saw the photos online. I don't understand what's happening." There was a long pause before Lisa responded. "Oh, Brock, I'm so sorry. I thought you knew. I mean, Tyler told everyone you were invited but chose not to come." The room seemed to tilt sideways. "He said what?" "He said you didn't approve of Jessica and decided not to attend. Some of us were surprised, knowing how close you two always were." But her voice trailed off. "Lisa, this is the first I'm hearing of this wedding. No one told me. No one invited me." "Oh my God, Brock. I don't know what to say. That's terrible." After we hung up, I called 2 more friends who had attended. Both confirmed the same story. Tyler had told everyone I was invited, but had declined to come because I had issues with Jessica. One friend said Tyler had seemed sad about it, but understanding of my concerns. What concerns? I had none. Jessica had always seemed lovely. Our relationship had been warm from the beginning. Still trying to make sense of it all, I returned to Instagram and looked at more photos. That's when I spotted images from earlier in the week. Tyler and Jessica, at the Athens airport. Jessica, posing by the blue domes of Santorini. Sunset dinner at a cliffside restaurant. They had been posting their honeymoon in real time. I sat up until 3 in the morning, scrolling back through months of their social media posts, looking for any hint of wedding plans. There were subtle clues I had missed. Jessica at a bridal shop with friends, captioned, saying yes to the dress with my girls, but no mention of an engagement. Tyler and his friends at what must have been his bachelor party, but framed as a guy's weekend in Nashville. They had planned this for months, and they had gone to great lengths to keep it from me specifically. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I had experienced since Sandra's death. I poured myself a glass of the 18-year-old scotch I save for special occasions and sat in the dark, wondering what I had done to deserve this. How had my relationship with my only child deteriorated so badly without me even realizing it? What lies had been told about me to justify my exclusion? And most importantly, what was I going to do about it? I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that Instagram caption, with the family that always supported me. As if I hadn't supported him. As if I hadn't worked 2 jobs so he could stay in his school after his mother died. As if I hadn't saved for decades to pay for his college education. As if I hadn't given him a $400,000 house as a gift. Around 5 in the morning, I went to the spare room closet and pulled down a plastic bin of Tyler's childhood mementos. Inside were finger paintings from kindergarten, report cards, sports trophies, and dozens of handmade Father's Day cards. One in particular caught my eye. A construction paper card from when Tyler was 11, the year after we lost Sandra. In crayon, he had written, "To the world's best dad. Thank you for taking care of me even when you're tired. I love you more than the whole universe." I set the card aside and kept digging. There were photos of camping trips, his 16th birthday when I surprised him with driving lessons, the day he got his college acceptance letter. Years of memories. Years of sacrifice and love. By the time the sun came up, I had made my decision. I wasn't going to wait for Tyler to return from his honeymoon to explain himself. I wasn't going to beg for an explanation or plead for inclusion in his life. I was going to act. At 8:30, I called my lawyer, Frank Donovan. Frank and I went back 30 years. He had handled Sandra's will, my father's estate, and the property transfer when I put the house in both my name and Tyler's. "Frank, I need to sell the Miller Avenue property. How quickly can we make that happen? The one Tyler's living in? Does he know about this?" "No, and I'd like to keep it that way until the papers are signed." Frank was silent for a moment. "Brock, what's going on? This isn't like you." I told him about the wedding, the deliberate exclusion, the lies Tyler had told about me to his friends and Jessica's family. "I see," Frank said when I finished. "Well, legally, you're within your rights. Your name is still on the deed as the primary owner. Tyler is listed as a co-owner, but there's a clause we included that gives you unilateral decision-making power regarding the property. What about the fact that it was a gift? It was a conditional gift. We documented that Tyler would take over certain financial responsibilities, including property taxes and insurance. Has he been making those payments? I realized I didn't know for certain. I need to check. Do that. If he's failed to meet the conditions, it strengthens your position. Let me review the paperwork and call you back this afternoon. While waiting for Frank's call, I went to my home office and pulled out the folder containing all the documents related to the house. Inside, I found the property tax statements for the past 2 years. To my surprise, they showed as unpaid, with late fees accumulating. I had assumed Tyler was handling this as we had agreed. Apparently not. When Frank called back, I told him about the unpaid taxes. "That's approximately $12,000 in back taxes," he said, "plus late fees. Have you been receiving the delinquent notices?" "No. They must be going to the house address, which Tyler has been ignoring. This definitely constitutes failure to meet the conditions of the gift. I can have the sale paperwork ready for you tomorrow morning." I asked Frank to recommend a realtor who could work quickly. By that afternoon, I was meeting with Diane Powell from Prestige Realty at the property. Tyler had given me a key when he first moved in, saying it was for emergencies. This felt like an emergency of sorts. Diane walked through the house, taking notes and photos. I hadn't been inside for several months, and I was shocked by what I found. The careful renovations I had made before giving Tyler the house had not been maintained. There were water stains on the ceiling from what appeared to be a leak. The hardwood floors I had refinished were scratched and damaged, and the once immaculate kitchen had broken cabinet doors and chipped countertops. What happened here? I asked aloud, though no one but Diane was there to hear me. Homes deteriorate quickly without proper maintenance, she said diplomatically. The good news is, the structure is sound, and the location is excellent. The market is hot right now. We could list it immediately. How much? I asked. Despite the condition, I'd recommend listing at $450. We'll likely get multiple offers, possibly above asking. Do it, I said, as quickly as possible. Back at home, I needed to gather all the relevant paperwork for Frank. While searching through my files, I came across a thick envelope I didn't recognize. Inside was a stack of documents from Third National Bank regarding a home equity line of credit for $50,000 on the Miller Avenue property. The loan had been taken out 8 months earlier. My signature was on the application. Except I had never signed it. I had never even seen these documents before. I examined the signature more closely. It was a decent forgery, but definitely not mine. The loop on the B in Brock was too rounded, and the tail of the R was wrong. Tyler had forged my signature to take out a loan against the house I had given him. I called Frank immediately. We have another problem. Tyler took out a $50,000 equity loan against the house. He forged my signature on the documents. Frank let out a low whistle. That's serious, Brock. That's criminal forgery. I know. But I don't want to press charges. I just want to sell the house and be done with it. We'll need to pay off the loan from the proceeds of the sale. I'll add that to the paperwork. Are you sure about this, Brock? Once we list the property, there's no going back. Tyler will find out when he returns from his honeymoon. I'm sure, I said, though my heart felt like it was being crushed in my chest. He made his choice. Now I'm making mine. The next morning, I signed all the paperwork in Frank's office. Diane listed the house that afternoon. By the time I went to bed, there were already 5 showing requests scheduled for the following day. I slept better that night than I had since seeing the wedding photo. Maybe it was the emotional exhaustion. Maybe it was the certainty of having made a decision. Or maybe it was simply the knowledge that actions have consequences. And Tyler was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The house sold in 3 days, well above the asking price. A young couple with a baby on the way fell in love with the neighborhood and the schools. They were willing to do the necessary renovations to make it their forever home. In some ways, they reminded me of Sandra and me when we were starting out. The sale was scheduled to close in 30 days. Frank assured me that everything was proceeding legally and that Tyler had no grounds to contest it. The $50,000 loan would be paid off from the proceeds, and the remaining money would come to me as the primary deed holder. Tyler and Jessica were scheduled to return from their 2-week honeymoon in Greece the following Tuesday. I didn't contact them. I didn't warn them. Part of me felt I was being unnecessarily cruel, but another part felt they had earned this response with their deliberate deception. On Wednesday evening, my doorbell rang. I knew who it was before I opened the door. Tyler stood on my porch, his face contorted with rage. Jessica waited in their car at the curb, her expression unreadable from that distance. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Tyler shouted, not even waiting for me to fully open the door. "I just got home from my honeymoon to find a sold sign in front of my house." "My house?" I stepped aside to let him in, maintaining a calm I didn't entirely feel. "Hello, Tyler. Congratulations on your marriage. I found out about it on Instagram, by the way. Nice touch. That caption about the family that always supported you." He stormed into the living room, pacing like a caged animal. "Is that what this is about? You're punishing me because you didn't get an invitation to my wedding? You didn't just not invite me, Tyler. You told everyone I refused to attend because I disapproved of Jessica. You lied about me to all our friends and family." He had the grace to look momentarily ashamed before his anger resurged. "You had no right to sell my house out from under me. That was a gift. A gift with conditions, which you failed to meet. You haven't paid the property taxes for 2 years. Did you think those bills just magically disappeared? I was going to catch up on those. With what money? The $50,000 you borrowed against the house by forging my signature?" Tyler's face went pale. "How did you? The bank sent the paperwork to my house. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? That's a felony, Tyler. I could press charges. Dad, it's not what you think. I needed that money for the wedding and honeymoon. I was going to pay it back." I stared at my son, truly seeing him for perhaps the first time. The wedding I wasn't invited to. The honeymoon in Greece. You committed fraud to pay for celebrations I wasn't allowed to be part of. "It wasn't like that," he protested, but his voice had lost some of its conviction. "Then what was it like? Explain it to me, because from where I'm standing, it looks like you used me for financial support while deliberately cutting me out of your life." It looks like you were happy to take my money and my house, but ashamed to have me at your wedding. Jessica's parents wanted a certain kind of wedding, Tyler said, his eyes not meeting mine. They were paying for most of it, and they had expectations. And those expectations included not inviting your only living parent? The father who raised you alone after your mother died? Tyler didn't answer directly. Instead, he said, "You can't sell the house. We need it. Jessica and I, we have plans. The house is already sold. The new owners take possession in 27 days. You'll need to be out by then." Tyler's face reddened again. "This is insane. You can't do this to me. To us. Where are we supposed to live? You're both employed. You can rent an apartment like most young couples starting out. I'm going to fight this," Tyler threatened. "I'll get a lawyer. I'll tell everyone what you did. Go ahead. My lawyer has all the documentation showing the house was still legally mine, that you failed to meet the conditions of the gift, and that you committed fraud by taking out a loan in my name. Do you really want to make all of that public?" Tyler stormed out, slamming the door so hard that a framed photo fell from the wall and cracked. It was a picture of him at his college graduation, my arm around his shoulders, both of us smiling. I carefully picked up the broken frame, cutting my finger on a shard of glass. As I watched the small bead of blood form, I wondered if I had gone too far. If my hurt and anger had pushed me to destroy whatever relationship we might have salvaged. The next day, Jessica's parents showed up at my door. Harold and Marjorie Dunn stood on my porch, looking like they'd stepped out of a country club brochure. Harold wore a golf shirt with an expensive logo. Marjorie had perfectly coiffed hair and diamond studs in her ears. "Mr. Miller," Harold began, his tone condescending, "we need to discuss this situation with Tyler's house." "There's nothing to discuss. The house has been sold. Perhaps we can come to some arrangement," Marjorie suggested. "Harold is prepared to offer you a fair price to cancel the current sale." I almost laughed. The house has already been sold to a lovely young couple starting a family. I'm not canceling anything. Harold's friendly facade slipped. "This is about the wedding, isn't it? Tyler told us you might be difficult about not being included, but this is extreme." "Tyler told you I might be difficult? That's interesting, considering I didn't even know about the wedding until I saw it on social media, after the fact." Marjorie and Harold exchanged glances. "Tyler said you two had discussed it," Marjorie said carefully. "That you understood the wedding was going to be small and intimate. The only thing Tyler and I discussed was his lie about receiving promotions at work that never happened. Oh, and I suppose we could discuss the $50,000 loan he took out by forging my signature." The Dunns looked genuinely shocked at this. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Harold said, his tone softer now. "The only misunderstanding was mine," I replied. "I misunderstood the kind of man my son had become." After they left, the community reaction began. Friends called to express either support or concern about my decision. My brother Phil drove up from Indianapolis to try to talk some sense into me. "You're acting out of hurt, Brock. I get it. What Tyler did was wrong. But selling his house? That's a nuclear option." "It wasn't his house," I said for what felt like the 100th time. "It was mine. I kept my name on the deed because I was concerned about exactly this kind of irresponsibility." "But where will they live? They're adults with jobs. They can figure it out." Phil shook his head. "This isn't you, Brock. You've always been the reasonable one, the one who thinks things through." Maybe he was right. Maybe I was being unreasonable. But every time I started to doubt myself, I remembered that Instagram caption, "With the family that always supported me," and my resolve hardened again. The anonymous phone calls started a few days later. Voices I didn't recognize calling me selfish, vindictive, a terrible father. Tyler's friends, I assumed, though none identified themselves. I changed my number after the 5th call. The most painful revelation came a week after the sale. Marcus, Tyler's best friend since middle school, stopped by to check on me. Marcus had always been a good kid, respectful and kind. He'd lost his own father young, and had sometimes looked to me as a father figure. "Mr. Miller, I just wanted to make sure you're okay. This whole situation is messed up." I invited him in, grateful for a friendly face. "Tyler's pretty torn up," Marcus said once we were seated. "Jessica too." "I'm sorry to hear that." Marcus hesitated, then said, "There's something you should know. About the wedding." "What's that?" "Jessica's parents insisted that you not be invited. They said you weren't the right element for the kind of wedding they wanted. Tyler argued with them about it, but they were paying for everything, and they threatened to cancel the whole thing if he insisted on including you. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, and Tyler went along with that? He thought he could make it up to you somehow. Explain afterward. He never meant for you to find out via social media. Jessica's cousin posted those photos before they had a chance to talk to you. Why are you telling me this? Marcus looked uncomfortable. Because I think you should know that Tyler was planning to have her parents move into the guest cottage at the house. They've sold their place to downsize, and the plan was for them to live on your property rent-free. That's what he meant in that caption about the family that always supported him. They were literally going to be supporting them by providing free housing for Jessica's parents. The pieces started to fall into place. Tyler cutting me out of his life. The fancy wedding paid for by the Dunns. The loan against the house. The plan to move Jessica's parents in. Did Tyler tell you about the loan he took out? The one where he forged my signature? Marcus's expression confirmed he hadn't known. No. That's not okay. No, it's not. After Marcus left, I sat in my silent house wondering if I had made a terrible mistake or if I had dodged a bullet. Either way, it was too late to go back. The house was sold. The relationship was damaged, perhaps beyond repair. All I could do now was move forward and try to make peace with my decisions. 2 months passed with no contact from Tyler except through lawyers. His attorney sent a letter threatening to contest the sale, but nothing came of it after Frank responded with documentation of the forged loan documents. The new owners took possession of the house, and Tyler and Jessica moved into an apartment across town. I tried to resume my normal life. I went to work, though retirement was on the horizon. I played golf with friends on weekends. I had dinner with my brother Phil when he came to town, but there was a heaviness in my chest that wouldn't go away, a Tyler-shaped hole in my life. Thanksgiving arrived. For the first time since Sandra died, I was truly alone for the holiday. Phil had invited me to Indianapolis, but I declined. I wasn't in the mood for family celebration. Instead, I roasted a small turkey breast and made a pitiful attempt at stuffing and cranberry sauce. I ate in front of the television watching football games I didn't care about. The stress began affecting my health. My blood pressure, usually well controlled, spiked high enough that my doctor added a second medication. I had trouble sleeping, often waking at 3 or 4 in the morning with thoughts of Tyler as a little boy, asking for one more bedtime story, or wanting to show me a new trick on his bike. Some days I was certain I had done the right thing. Tyler needed to learn there were consequences for his actions. Other days, I was consumed with regret. Had I overreacted? Had I destroyed my relationship with my only child over what might have been a misunderstanding? Through mutual friends, I heard that Tyler was telling people I had gone temporarily insane, that I was having some kind of delayed breakdown after years of living alone. Jessica's father was apparently suggesting to anyone who would listen that I might be developing dementia and should be evaluated. Friends I had known for decades began to look at me differently. Some stopped calling altogether. Others treated me with a careful kindness that felt patronizing, as if they weren't sure I was entirely stable. I began to contemplate more dramatic changes. Maybe I should retire early and move away. Start over somewhere warm like Arizona or Florida. Leave behind the painful memories and the whispers about my mental state. One morning in early December, I received a certified letter from a law firm I didn't recognize. Inside was a formal notice informing me that Tyler was considering legal action regarding mismanagement of his mother's inheritance 20 years earlier. The letter claimed that Sandra had left a separate insurance policy designating funds specifically for Tyler's education, and that I had commingled those funds with my own accounts, possibly misappropriating some of the money. It was complete fiction. Sandra and I had a joint policy that had barely covered her medical expenses and funeral costs. There had been no separate education fund. The money I saved for Tyler's college had come entirely from my earnings after her death. I called Frank immediately. "This is harassment, pure and simple," he said, after I read him the letter. "It's also a desperate move. If Tyler proceeds with this, he'll be committing perjury. There are bank records, insurance documents. We can easily disprove these claims. But the damage will be done," I said. "People will hear the accusations. They'll wonder if there's truth to them. Do you want me to respond with a cease and desist?" I thought about it. No. Let's wait and see if they actually file anything. I don't think they will once they realize there's no evidence to support these claims. After hanging up with Frank, I sat at my kitchen table feeling more alone than I had since Sandra died. My son, the person I loved most in the world, was now threatening me with false legal claims. How had we gotten here? And more importantly, was there any way back? I found myself looking at old photo albums that evening. Pictures of Tyler as a toddler taking his first steps, his first day of school with a Batman backpack, nearly as big as he was. Sandra and me flanking him at his elementary school science fair, where his volcano project had won first prize. In the back of one album, I found a letter Sandra had written to Tyler before she died. I had given it to him on his 18th birthday, but he had left it at my house during one of his college breaks. I had forgotten about it until now. In her beautiful handwriting, Sandra had written, "My dearest Tyler, if you're reading this, it means I didn't get to see you grow into the man I know you'll become. I'm so sorry for that. But I want you to know that your father is the best man I've ever known. He will move mountains to give you what you need. He will sacrifice without complaint. He will love you fiercely and completely. Trust him. Learn from him. And when you're grown, remember all he's done, not just the things you can see and count, but the invisible sacrifices that shape a life given in service to another. I love you always, Mom." Tears blurred my vision as I carefully returned the letter to its envelope. Sandra had seen me clearly, had known the kind of father I would strive to be after she was gone. Had I lived up to her faith in me? Or had I failed in some fundamental way that explained Tyler's rejection? The certified letter from Tyler's lawyer weighed on me. Not because I feared the allegations, which were completely fabricated, but because it represented how broken our relationship had become. My son was willing to publicly accuse me of stealing from him, rather than take responsibility for his own actions. I went to bed that night with a heavy heart, wondering if there was any path to reconciliation, or if some relationships, once broken, can never truly be repaired. A week before Christmas, there was a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, and almost didn't answer. The last 2 months had made me wary of unexpected visitors, but something compelled me to open the door. Marcus stood on my porch, stamping his feet against the December cold. He looked troubled. "Marcus, this is a surprise. Can I come in, Mr. Miller? I need to talk to you about Tyler." I led him to the living room, where the Christmas tree I had half-heartedly put up stood with only a few ornaments. I hadn't had the heart for a full decoration effort this year. "What's going on?" I asked once we were seated. Marcus twisted his hands in his lap. "I've been struggling with whether to tell you this. Tyler's my best friend, has been since we were kids. But what he's doing now isn't right." "You mean the legal threat about his mother's inheritance?" "That, and other things." Marcus took a deep breath. "Tyler's in trouble, Mr. Miller. Serious financial trouble." "What kind of trouble?" "Gambling. It started a couple of years ago, with sports betting apps. Then poker games, casino trips. He thought he could win big and impress Jessica with his success. The pieces started falling into place. The lies about promotions and raises, the unpaid property taxes, the forged loan. "How bad is it?" I asked. "Bad. Over $100,000 in debt, to some serious people. That $50,000 he borrowed against the house, it didn't go to the wedding. It went to pay off a loan shark who was threatening him." I sat back, trying to process this information. "And Jessica? Does she know?" "Not the full extent. She knows they have money problems, but Tyler's been hiding how bad it is. He told her the house sale was all you're doing, that you had some kind of breakdown." "And the legal threat?" Marcus looked ashamed. "It's a bluff. Tyler knows there's no separate insurance policy. He's desperate, Mr. Miller. He thought he could scare you into a settlement that would help with his debts." I felt sick. My son had developed a gambling addiction, lied to everyone in his life, committed forgery, and was now attempting to extort money from me, based on false accusations. "Why are you telling me this, Marcus?" "Because it's gone too far. And because I care about Tyler. He needs help, not enablers. When I found out about the inheritance claim, I knew I had to tell you the truth. Does Tyler know you're here?" "No. He'd see it as a betrayal. But I'm more worried about where he's headed than about him being mad at me." After Marcus left, I called Frank and told him everything I had learned. "This changes things," Frank said. "The gambling addiction explains a lot, but it doesn't excuse the forgery or the false legal claims." "No, it doesn't. But it helps me understand why he's been acting this way." "What do you want to do, Brock?" I thought about it. "I need more information first. Let me see what I can find out." The next day, I drove to the engineering firm where Tyler worked. I hadn't been there in years, not since a company barbecue when Tyler first started. I asked the receptionist if Bob Wheeler, Tyler's boss, was available. Bob seemed surprised to see me but invited me into his office. "Brock, this is unexpected. What can I do for you? I need to talk to you about Tyler, in confidence." Bob's expression grew serious. "Of course. I have reason to believe Tyler has a gambling problem that's affecting his work and finances. Has there been any indication of that here?" Bob sighed heavily. "I was wondering when this might come up." "Yes, there have been issues. Tyler's performance has been declining for about 18 months. He's missed deadlines, come in late, seemed distracted. We've had 2 formal discussions about it. The last one was a final warning. I see. And has he ever asked to borrow money from colleagues? Bob's uncomfortable expression confirmed my fears. There have been some situations. Small loans that weren't repaid. Office pools where the money went missing. Nothing we could prove definitively, but suspicions. I thanked Bob for his honesty and left feeling even more concerned about Tyler's situation. My next stop was completely unexpected, even to me. I drove to Jessica's parents' house in the upscale Lakewood neighborhood. Harold answered the door, his expression darkening when he saw me. Mr. Miller, what are you doing here? I need to speak with you and your wife about Tyler. It's important. Harold hesitated, then reluctantly invited me in. Marjorie joined us in their formal living room, perching nervously on the edge of an expensive-looking sofa. I've recently learned some disturbing information about Tyler's finances, I began. I think you should be aware of it before things get worse. I told them everything Marcus had shared about Tyler's gambling addiction. I explained about the forged loan documents, the unpaid taxes, and the false inheritance claims. I showed them bank statements I had brought along, proving that Sandra's life insurance had gone entirely to medical and funeral expenses, with nothing left over for any education fund. The Dunns looked stunned. We had no idea, Marjorie said quietly. Jessica mentioned they were having some financial difficulties, but nothing like this. Tyler told us he paid for their honeymoon himself, Harold added. He said it was important to him to show he could provide for Jessica. We offered to help, but he insisted. And the wedding? The Dunns exchanged glances. We did pay for most of it, Marjorie admitted, but it was Tyler who said you didn't want to be involved, that you thought they were too young and were disappointed in his career choices. And you believed him without ever speaking to me directly? Harold had the grace to look embarrassed. We should have reached out to you. That was our mistake. As I was leaving, Marjorie touched my arm. Mr. Miller. Brock. What are you going to do with this information? I don't know yet. But Tyler needs help, not more deception. My final unexpected visit that day was to Tyler and Jessica's apartment. I hadn't been there before, and had to look up the address. It was in a decent complex not far from their jobs, nowhere near as nice as the house Tyler had been living in, but certainly not a hardship. I wasn't sure if either of them would be home mid-afternoon, but I took a chance. To my surprise, Jessica answered the door. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. Her expression when she saw me was a mix of shock and wariness. Mr. Miller. Jessica, I was hoping we could talk. Is Tyler home? No, he's at work. She hesitated, then stepped back. You can come in if you want. The apartment was sparsely furnished, with what looked like a mix of new IKEA pieces and a few items I recognized from the house. Jessica offered me water, which I accepted mainly to have something to do with my hands. I know this is awkward, I began, but I've learned some things about Tyler that concern me deeply, and I think you might be in the dark about them too. Jessica's eyes filled with tears before I could say more. It's the gambling, isn't it? You know about it. I was taken aback. You know? She nodded miserably. I found out just after we got back from our honeymoon, right around the time you sold the house. I discovered credit card statements, loan documents. When I confronted him, he admitted he'd been betting on sports and playing poker, losing much more than he won. Did you know about the loan against the house? The forged signature? Jessica paled. He forged your signature? No. I didn't know that part. He told me you had co-signed the loan. I explained everything, including what I had learned from Marcus and Tyler's boss, and what I had just discussed with her parents. Jessica listened, with increasing distress. I don't understand how it got this bad without me noticing, she said when I finished. We've only been together 3 years, but still, how did I miss this? Addicts are good at hiding their behavior, I said gently. And people in love often see what they want to see. What about the wedding? Did Tyler really tell everyone you refused to come? According to several friends, yes. Jessica put her head in her hands. He told me your invitation must have gotten lost in the mail. When I realized you weren't there on the day, he said you had called that morning to say you were sick. I thought it was strange you didn't call me too, but it was my wedding day. I was distracted. And your parents? They never said anything negative about you to me. They were confused about why you weren't there, but Tyler always had an explanation. We talked for another hour. Jessica revealed that they were struggling to make rent and pay bills. Tyler had maxed out their credit cards and was still placing bets, despite promising to stop. She had considered leaving him but felt trapped by their new marriage and her genuine love for the man she thought she had married. I don't know what to do, she admitted. I still love him, but this person he's become. I don't know if I can stay if he doesn't get help. As I was leaving, Jessica said something that stopped me in my tracks. There's one more thing you should know. I'm pregnant. 8 weeks. I haven't told Tyler yet. I'm afraid of bringing a child into this situation. I stared at her, processing this news. I was going to be a grandfather. And unless something changed dramatically, that grandchild would be born into a home filled with financial stress, deception, and addiction. Tyler needs professional help, I said. Not just for himself now, but for his child. Jessica nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know, but how do I make that happen? He denies he has a problem. He says he can stop anytime he wants, that he's just had a run of bad luck. Let me think about it, I said. Maybe together we can find a way to help him. As I drove home, my mind was reeling from everything I had learned. The situation was far worse than I had imagined, but also different. Tyler hadn't excluded me from his wedding because he was ashamed of me, or because Jessica's parents disapproved. He had done it because his whole life had become a house of cards built on lies and deception. Adding one more lie about why his father wasn't at his wedding had probably seemed like a small thing compared to everything else he was hiding. For the first time since seeing that Instagram post, I felt something other than hurt and anger. I felt profound concern for my son, my new daughter-in-law, and my future grandchild. And I felt a responsibility to try to help, if Tyler would let me. A week before Christmas, I asked Jessica to arrange a meeting with Tyler at a neutral location. She suggested a coffee shop near their apartment, a place they often went on weekend mornings. Tyler agreed, though Jessica said he was suspicious about my intentions. I arrived early and found a quiet table in the corner. When Tyler walked in, I was shocked by his appearance. He had lost weight, and there was a haunted look in his eyes that reminded me painfully of how he had looked after his mother died. Jessica followed a few steps behind him, her face a mask of anxiety. "Dad," Tyler said stiffly as he sat down. "Tyler, thank you for coming." Jessica excused herself to get coffee, leaving us alone. "What's this about?" Tyler asked. "If it's about that letter from my lawyer, I'm not backing down." "It's not about the letter, or not directly. It's about your gambling addiction." Tyler's face went white, then red. "What are you talking about? I don't have a gambling problem." "Tyler, I know everything. Marcus told me about the sports betting and the poker games. Your boss told me about the performance issues at work." Jessica confirmed it all. "And she told me about the maxed-out credit cards and the ongoing bets. They had no right to tell you any of that. They had every right. They care about you. They're worried about what you're doing to yourself and to your marriage." Tyler looked away, his jaw clenched. "So what? You came to gloat? To tell me this is what I deserve for cutting you out of the wedding?" "No, I came to help." That got his attention. He looked back at me, confused. "Help? After selling my house out from under me?" "I sold the house because I was hurt and angry. I didn't know about the gambling then. I just knew you had lied to me, excluded me from your wedding, and forged my signature on loan documents. I reacted badly. I'm not proud of it." Jessica returned with 3 coffees and sat beside Tyler, her hand automatically finding his. "Tell him," she said softly. Tyler looked trapped. "Tell him what?" "About the baby, Tyler. About our future." Tyler's eyes widened. "You're pregnant? When were you going to tell me?" "I just found out for sure last week. I was waiting for the right time." Tyler put his head in his hands. When he looked up, there were tears in his eyes. "I've really messed everything up, haven't I?" For the next hour, we talked honestly for the first time in years. Tyler admitted that his gambling had started as a way to impress Jessica and her wealthy parents. He had won a few times early on, and thought he had found a way to elevate his status. But then, the losses started, and he chased them with bigger and riskier bets, spiraling deeper into addiction and debt. "I never meant to hurt anyone," he said. "Especially you, Dad. The wedding. That was the lowest point. I was in so deep by then. The loan sharks were threatening me. I needed Jessica's parents to pay for the wedding, because I had nothing left. And I couldn't bear for you to see what I had become. So you told everyone I refused to attend?" Tyler nodded miserably. It seemed easier than explaining the truth. "I told myself I would make it up to you somehow, fix things before you found out. Then, you saw the Instagram post. And the caption?" Tyler winced. "That was aimed at Jessica's parents. They had just agreed to move into the guest house rent-free to help us save money. I was desperate for their financial support. I never thought how it would look to you. And the forged loan documents? I was facing a deadline with one of my bookies. He threatened to come to my workplace, to tell Jessica everything. I was panicking. I knew you would never agree to a loan if you knew the real reason, so I forged your signature. I told myself I would pay it back before you ever found out. I took a deep breath. Tyler, I need you to understand something. What you've done is not just hurtful. Some of it is criminal. The forgery alone could result in charges if I chose to pursue them. Are you going to? His voice was barely audible. No. But I'm also not going to enable your addiction. If you want my help, it comes with conditions. Tyler and Jessica exchanged glances. What conditions? Jessica asked. First, Tyler needs professional treatment for his gambling addiction. Not just promises to stop, but actual therapy with specialists in addiction. Tyler nodded slowly. Second, complete financial transparency. I need to know exactly how much debt you're in, to whom, and with what terms. It's bad, Dad, Tyler admitted. Over 100,000. Third, you need to make amends to everyone you've lied to. That includes me, Jessica, her parents, your friends, and your colleagues. Tyler looked terrified at the prospect but nodded again. What about the house? Jessica asked. We can't get it back, can we? No, that's done. But there is something you should know. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a document Frank had prepared. The day after I met with Jessica, I set up a trust fund for your child, my grandchild. I've placed the proceeds from the house sale, minus the loan payoff and taxes, into this trust. Tyler stared at the document in shock. But that's almost $400,000. The money can't be accessed by either of you directly. It's for your child's education and future needs. However, the trust does allow for one exception. Payment for your addiction treatment, Tyler. Those expenses can be covered by the trust. Tears streamed down Tyler's face. Why would you do this? After everything I've done? Because you're my son. Because I love you, despite everything. And because that baby deserves a fresh start, just like you do. Jessica was crying too. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Brock, this is more than we deserve. Call me Dad, I said, reaching across to squeeze her hand. We're family now. That meeting was just the beginning of a long, difficult journey. Tyler entered an intensive outpatient program for gambling addiction the following week. He had to take a leave of absence from work, but his boss was surprisingly supportive once he understood Tyler was getting help. Jessica and I worked together to create a plan for their finances. The debts were substantial, but not insurmountable with proper budgeting and time. Jessica's parents, once they understood the full situation, agreed to help with a structured repayment plan rather than the open-ended financial support they had been providing. Tyler made his amends, painful as they were. He called each friend who had attended the wedding and explained that I had never refused to attend, that he had lied to them. He apologized to his colleagues for the money he had borrowed and never repaid. And most importantly, he apologized to me, not just with words but with consistent actions that showed he was committed to change. It wasn't a smooth process. There were setbacks. Tyler relapsed once, 3 months into his recovery, placing bets online during a particularly stressful week. But instead of hiding it, he admitted it immediately and recommitted to his treatment program. 6 months after our coffee shop meeting, Jessica's parents hosted a baby shower at their home. I was invited, along with Tyler's friends and colleagues. It was awkward at first. Many people there knew about Tyler's addiction and our estrangement, but as the afternoon progressed, the tension eased. At one point, Tyler stood up and publicly thanked me for my support during his recovery. It was the closest I had come to crying in front of others since Sandra's funeral. My grandson James was born in July. Holding him for the first time, I saw echoes of Tyler as a baby, and even further back, glimpses of Sandra in the shape of his eyes. The cycle of family continuing. Despite the broken places we had navigated, Tyler and Jessica bought a small, modest house within their means a year later. It was nothing like the house I had given Tyler, but it was theirs, honestly purchased and maintained. Tyler had returned to work with a new focus and had slowly rebuilt his professional reputation. Jessica had cut back to part-time hours to care for James, but was planning to return full-time when he started preschool. The Sunday family dinners resumed, alternating between their house and mine. Sometimes Jessica's parents joined us, and over time, an unlikely friendship formed between Harold, Marjorie, and me. We had all been manipulated by Tyler's addiction in different ways, and there was solidarity in that shared experience. 2 years after that fateful Instagram post, we celebrated Christmas together at my house. Tyler, Jessica, and 3-year-old James stayed in Tyler's old room. After James was asleep, Tyler and I sat by the Christmas tree, nursing glasses of eggnog, non-alcoholic for Tyler, who had discovered that alcohol triggered his gambling urges. "I've been thinking about Mom lately," Tyler said. "About what she would think of everything that happened." "She would be proud of your recovery," I said. "Of the father you've become to James." Tyler nodded. "I found her letter recently, the one she wrote before she died. The part about you moving mountains for me, making invisible sacrifices. I never really understood that until I became a father myself. It's what parents do. The good ones, anyway. I'm sorry, Dad. For everything. For the wedding, the lies, the loan, for nearly destroying our family. I'm sorry too. For reacting the way I did, selling the house without talking to you first. That wasn't my finest moment." Tyler smiled slightly. "It actually turned out to be exactly what I needed. The rock bottom that forced me to face my addiction." I reached over and clasped his shoulder. "Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that save us." Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat alone by the Christmas tree, thinking about the journey of the past 2 years. The pain and betrayal I had felt upon seeing that Instagram post had been real and justified, but beneath it all had been a love that survived the worst kind of test. I thought about what Tyler had said about Sandra's letter, about understanding invisible sacrifices now that he was a father himself. Perhaps that was the greatest gift to come from this ordeal. Not just the healing of our relationship, but Tyler's growth into the kind of father Sandra and I had always hoped he would become. Family isn't just about shared DNA or holiday dinners. It's about showing up when it matters most, even when it's difficult. It's about finding a path back to each other after betrayal. It's about loving fiercely enough to set boundaries and offer second chances. And sometimes, it's about selling a house to save a son. What would you do if someone you loved betrayed your trust? Would you react from hurt and anger like I did, or would you find a more measured response? Have you ever been the person who needed forgiveness rather than the one who needed to forgive? Either way, I hope my story has touched something in you, reminded you that no relationship is perfect, but many are worth fighting for. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and leave a comment about a time when forgiveness changed your life. Until next time, this is Brock Miller, wishing you healing in all your broken places.